Welcome into Off the Leash. This might be the smallest Off the Leash we've had.
Been a
Mark
while.
Schwab, I'm Leah Doherty. We're holding it down.
Holding it down.
On a lovely Tuesday evening. Hello, everyone. We have some Browns news, which this time of year, it could be hard to find things to talk about.
Yeah.
This is when things get a little dead. The wait is over. Browns have hired a defensive coordinator, Mike Rutenberg, Mark Schwab.
Yep.
Your initial thoughts on the hiring of DC?
This was always going to be. This was always the type of guy I thought they would get if they couldn't get Schwartz. They got to get somewhat of an up and comer. He's not a super young guy. He's 44. It's certainly not old, but he's not young. This will be his fifth organization: Jags, Jets, Niners, Falcons, Browns. So he's been around the league. He's got some experience. Never been a DC before. Everybody seems to love him. If you look at some of the quotes from the Atlanta people, they said it was only a matter of time before he was going to be a defensive coordinator. I understand. What else are they going to say? But for what I expected them to get, yep, this is right there. Go get him. Don't screw it up.
Former Falcons defensive pass game coordinator. I think it's funny. It feels like we just made a swap with the Falcons.
Done a lot of that. Yeah. He was not, he was one of their assistants, so this is a promotion for him.
Right.
It's not like Kevin Stefanski got there and blew this guy out. He was not their defensive coordinator. So, they've had a lot of people from Cleveland down there. We get one up here.
We do have a soundbite. I want to hear from Michael Penix Jr. That's one of the guys that had high praise for Rutenberg.
He came up to me after the game just now. He was like, "Man, you're a dog, bro. I appreciate you." I said, "Nah, you a dog." He said, "I effing know." So I'm like, "Yeah, that's him. That's the guy. That's what he is, man. He's a guy that cares, and you can see the passion that he has for this game and the love that he has for this team, each and every day."
That's always big when you have endorsement from players, because that's something now that we shift the conversation into. We already know there was bad blood. Jim Schwartz left. The buy-in from guys that we're going to see. It starts with Myles Garrett. You got to get Myles Garrett on board. And I'm curious if you feel like, since they did look at a couple internal candidates, if you feel like it's going to be harder to get guys to buy in with an outside
I don't know if it'll be
candidate coming
harder.
in.
I think no. I mean, it'll take a little longer, right? He doesn't know. They don't know. If they brought in and promoted Tarver, everyone already knows him. So it's going to take a little longer. I'll say this. I mean, we're playing player sound talking about this guy. Michael Penix is an offensive player that had a lot to say about a defensive assistant, not even the defensive coordinator. It's not like he's coached by that guy. It's not like, he's around him a whole lot. Of course, they're on the same team. They cross paths. But that says a lot to me. If offensive players take notice of this guy, I think that does say something. So there's that. I don't know if it'll be harder. I think it'll just take a little longer because they're going to have to get to know each other. There's going to be a feeling out process.
And something we had talked about, I'm sure when they're interviewing candidates, one of the first questions they're looking at is, are you comfortable maintaining the same scheme or relatively very close to what Jim Schwartz ran, right? So obviously this has to be something comfortable that he's running. And we talked about it last week. I don't think it should be as hard for guys to buy in when you're keeping relatively that same scheme. And I'm sorry, whether these guys are bought in or not, it's a job. You may not love the manager that you work for,
right,
and everyone's been there, but at the end of the day, you show up and do your job. But it is noticeable. You can tell, when we first start talking to Myles Garrett and some of these other players, you can tell when it's genuine, if they really love playing for someone and respect them, or if they're just kind of saying the right things in front of the camera and maybe they're not meshing as well. And you can see that at practice too. I mean, when we have training camp, those are all things we're going to be able to see right up close.
So a couple things. I would say one, just as they did the homework/essay process when they were searching for a head coach, I'm going to assume they did that for the coordinators as well. And, it didn't even get to the, are you going to run the same scheme in the interview? You're not getting on the phone or in the door if you're not going to run the same scheme. But I have got to imagine they were asked and drilled with questions. How are you going to make Myles Garrett? I don't know if you can say how you're going to make him better. He's already all-world. But what is your plan to maximize him and maximize some of the other guys we have with talent? Because I'll tell you what, if you're bringing in an offensive guy and you're basically going to say, how are you going to make this slop effective in the NFL? No, these are legitimate players. If there's one thing the Browns have is legitimate defensive players, you got to have some good answers. So I've got to imagine that guy had some pretty good responses to those types of inquiries when he did his essay or how he had to answer the question. The other thing is, I would hope that Andrew Berry and Todd Monken went to Myles Garrett and said, hey, this is who we're thinking of bringing in. I understand he is the employee, all right? But you still want a little bit of feedback, ideally, of your best players, especially in this case, your best player, one who was publicly upset with Jim Schwartz leaving because he put on Instagram the guy who had just got off the fast food shift with his head down and was totally defeated. And that's what Myles meant when Schwartz left. So I got to think they went to Myles in the run-up to this and got his approval to agree. I mean, can you imagine if Myles said, no, I cannot play for this man. Tough 95. He's coming in. I can't see that happening.
Well, and granted, I don't even... It's not like this guy hasn't been a DC before, so do we know even enough to be absolutely not? I'm not going to play for this guy. And it is interesting because I doubt when it went through the whole Jim Schwartz, Todd Monken coaching cycle, do you think they asked Myles for any input on that? Seems like no. And so I'd be curious to see how open he would be to both parties of having feedback and talking about that, because there could be some, I don't know, tension there. There already was when he asked for a trade.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I'll bet you they did take let me talk to him about the head coaches.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But clearly Schwartz was his pick to be the head coach, and they didn't go with that. Now, again, they don't have to go with his guy. And I understand going back, this is more on the Monken train, but I understand that this offense is a total disaster. Hire an offensive architect who can fix this. So I understood that, and I understood maybe going away from Garrett's preference in that regard. You don't need to go away from his preference in this regard, other than Schwartz just told you to go pound sand, so you can't get that guy. But I think you're going to at least get a guy that 95 will be like, all right, let's, I like this, too, as much as you can tell. He's going to be on board and want to play for the guy and all that jazz.
And it's just interesting. We had talked about this before, but you have all these new faces that haven't been a head coach, haven't been, DC, OC, all these things. And do you think that's just because of the destination this is, and they're not able to get the, we can't go poach a current DC, the best, right,
Maybe. All right, so the offensive coordinator, you were never going to get a guy because Monken's an offensive head coach. He's essentially the de facto OC, right? I don't know why a former high-level offensive coordinator would come. So basically, I think we're talking about is Monken being inexperienced and the defensive coordinator being inexperienced. No, I don't think it's just because of the destination, because I do think somebody with experience as defensive coordinator would want to come here and coach Garrett and Ward and these guys.
Why would you not want to coach
Why would you
player?
not want to? Mm-hmm. So I think this was a situation where they did have options to at least talk to guys, right? And, I mean, they settled on this dude because obviously they feel he's the best. We all know that because, they hired him. I don't know if to answer your point, are these all rookie coach coordinators just because of it being the Cleveland Browns? I don't think it's necessarily the entire reason. Probably had something to do with the fact that with Monken being the head coach, though, for sure.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, coming up after the break, Mark Schwab has his very famous, legendary true-false question of the week.
World famous.
You guys don't want to miss it. It's right on the other side of this break.
Off the Leash continues. Mark Schwab, Leah Doherty with you as we dive into the Browns and the coaching shuffle here. So we're going to this is a Jim Schwartz related true false. And we did Jim Schwartz last week. It was, they will basically miss him, and there will be a drop off. That's not where we're going here, though. I'm going to set this up. So New England needs a defensive coordinator. They've had a couple of strange things going on there. There's an opening there. Mike Vrabel, when he was the head coach of the Tennessee Titans, liked Jim Schwartz a lot, brought in Schwartz not as a defensive coordinator, but as a guy.
Consultant?
That was the phrase. He was a defensive consultant. So there's familiarity there. Vrabel clearly has a need. Schwartz, I don't want to say he's available, but he doesn't have a job. You can't say he's available because technically he's still under contract with the Browns. True or false, the Browns should try to trade Jim Schwartz to the New England Patriots?
I would say true because I'm not sure what the Browns have to lose, except for the fact that, your pride, that's frustrating, and then he goes off and does amazing.
Yep.
But if you trade him, you only have things to gain. I mean, it's not like he's contributing to your staff this year, right? So to me, it only seems like a net positive. I'm only not going to let you go if I just, am angry and frustrated and don't want to let you go, right?
So that is a very solid argument for it. I will still say false. Mm-hmm. Here's why. Because here's the only argument against it, but for me it's strong enough that go ahead. I'm going to say false. I don't know how much you'd actually get for a coordinator. And if anyone's listening to this wondering, can you trade? Yes, every once in a while coaches are traded. So there's no reason a coordinator could not be traded. I don't know what you're really getting for him. Maybe at best a mid-round pick. Also, at that point, if, say, you transact this, he goes to New England. He's going to immediately sign a 3 to 4 year deal there, you would assume. Vrabel's not going anywhere. They're going to be good. Schwartz will be there for the next, 3, 4, 5 years unless somebody wants to hire him as a head coach. Now, here's where Browns fans are going to say, Schwab, you're crazy. The Browns' objective in this, despite all of the things they do, their objective is to win the Super Bowl. Right. Which means you have to clear New England and the rest of the AFC. I do not want to ensure.
Why trade Joe Flacco to the Bengals?
That's a separate conversation.
Okay.
I do not want to ensure that one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL goes to one of the best teams in the AFC with one of the best head coaches and being one of the best run organizations in the NFL. I don't want that. Now, I understand Schwartz might go there anyway in a year from now, and then, okay, maybe you missed out on a 4th-round pick. But if I'm the Browns, I would rather have the entire universe of options for Jim Schwartz, and maybe somebody hires him to go out west in the NFC or anywhere in the NFC, or maybe it's a bad AFC team that wants to hire him. And then he's still in the conference, but it's not as... You send him to New England, you already have to go through that team. We know they're going to be really good for a while. They have the coach, they have the quarterback, they're a well-run organization. I don't want to send them one of the best coordinators in the NFL for a middle-round pick if I have to go through them to contend in the AFC. So I say false, they should not explore that.
But are you really thinking that, realistically, this is a team we're going to have to get through if we want to go to the Super Bowl next year?
They are the defending AFC champions.
No. I understand that realistically the Patriots are a threat. Realistically, do the Cleveland Browns believe they will get to a place to where they will be facing the Patriots?
Oh, this is an easy answer, the way you phrase this. The Cleveland Browns, if the Cleveland Browns do not believe they should be in a path to contend, Jimmy Haslam should fire everyone in the building.
But
what are they doing here? You play, Herm said it. You play to win the game. You play to contend and win Super Bowls. Now, people are laughing and saying this is the Browns. The Browns don't think they're incapable of doing this.
We've heard words, rebuild and stuff. You can be realistic and know this may not be our best year because we still don't have our quarterback.
Now we're talking only about 2026. You send him New England, he's going to be there 3 to 5 years.
Right, but I'm saying if you withhold him just from this one season...
If he ends up there anyway, then you lose out.
Yeah.
But if you get to next offseason and there's 9 teams that need defensive coordinators, and the Patriots hire their guy now, and then they're really good again, they're not firing him. That's not an opening.
Yeah.
And Schwartz will have to go somewhere else where there probably aren't going to be a strong contender. So if I'm the Browns, no, I don't want to send him to an AFC powerhouse to make them even better for a middling pick. I would rather him go somewhere, maybe in the NFC, or if it's to an AFC club, one that's probably not as good.
Right. Logically, that sounds sound.
Yes.
But then why would you send your starting quarterback at one point to a division rival?
Well, first of all,
that's what we're really concerned about is, like, I'm going to have to face you.
Yeah, I cannot answer for all of Andrew Berry's mistakes. I'm simply explaining why Andrew Berry should not make another one.
That's fair. That was a good true false. That'll be really interesting to see what they would do with that, because I don't even know the last time we've had a trade of a coach. And yeah, like you said, like, what's the cap? What do they get for him? You know?
I mean, a lot of times a head coach, and I can't. There was one somewhat recently where a coach got traded. I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was. But like when the Bucks traded for Gruden, they had to give up a first. I think usually for a head coach, it's like a first, maybe even more. They might have got 2 for Gruden, but coordinator, you're not going to get a first for that. You're not getting a second. No. You know, and even if they would give you something like a second, I don't know why they would. It's going to be, they're picking 31st. It's late. I don't know how much that really, to ensure that one of the best teams in the AFC gets one of the best coordinators for the next 3 to 5 years. I want no part of it. Nope. Yep. He can sit the year out.
No.
I like Jim Schwartz a lot. I don't want him in New England.
I agree. I think the likely thing that happens is that he probably sits out for the year, is what I would agree with.
I concur.
All right, well, we have a little bit of Joel Bitonio news. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about free agency right on the other side of this break. Welcome back into Off the Leash. Kind of have some Joel Bitonio news, kind of not. The news is we still don't have any
news. The news is there's no news.
We're still waiting. Jason Lloyd put out the Browns and Joel Bitonio have agreed to push the void date back on his contract until the end of the league year in March. So that gives him about 3 more weeks to decide on his future. The previous deadline was yesterday, February 16th. So we had been waiting. We knew that deadline was close. You know, is he going to retire? Is he going to stay? Why do you think they make a move like that? You think because he is still truly undecided at this point?
I would think so. Like if he said I'm out, what are we doing here?
And that's kind of surprising to me.
Totally.
If it's still taking him this long, because that means he's really considering coming back, which I didn't think would be the case because, golly, it's already so tough on your body. You're towards the end of your career. He kind of gave it one hurrah and came back for last year when we thought he maybe was going to retire. And oof, that was not a fun year to come back for. And now you're cleaning house and starting with all new guys. Like, to me, that just wouldn't be fun. Like, let's start over with a brand new coach and brand new everything, a very different looking offensive line. Like, to me, that just feels like a lot to get up for. And if I'm on my way out, I don't want anything to do with it.
I wonder if he's waiting to see if they make some move with a quarterback. Now, the timing of it still doesn't time up very well because it would be the new league year. The Browns really couldn't do anything till after that. So I don't know how much that could be in play, but he's clearly waiting on something. And it might just be he's mulling it over. Maybe he does want to see like a path to something for them. Maybe Todd Monken just said, give me another 3 weeks to go to work on you. And he said, okay. Yeah, it could be any one of those things, but it is most likely just that he doesn't know. He doesn't know.
Which I think only bodes well for the Browns.
Yes, totally.
I mean, as opposed to like an immediate, nah, I'm good. We do have some sound from CBS Sports analyst Mike Renner talking about why the Browns should be up putting all their chips in the draft this year as opposed to free agency.
Not really. Unfortunately, this just isn't the year. You know, when you got one guy taking up, gosh, what is it, like $80 million on your cap this year, and he's not going to be playing, you just can't really bank on this year. You have to play for that reset when Deshaun Watson's contract comes off the books. So you are focusing all your resources really on the draft, really on developing young players. I don't want to bring any veteran in who's going to play over a young guy that you recently drafted. Just give those young guys as much leeway as possible.
So that's interesting. He was talking about how the Browns need to be putting all their resources and looking towards the draft as opposed to be focused on free agency and making moves there. But
I completely disagree.
I disagree as well because you got to go get some offensive linemen, and I don't think you're going to be wasting your draft capital.
I mean, they have
all on that. You have 2 first-round picks.
How many premium picks do you want to say there? I say 3. They got the 2 firsts and a high second. Okay, at best, maybe you nail 3 starters the first year. I mean, they need a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, the draft should be seasoning.
Mm-hmm.
You get the meal in free agency and maybe a trade or 2.
Because you can't always expect those. I mean, they got lucky this year that they had guys that could contribute right away.
And they're still a mess.
And that's on the defense. Carson
Right.
Harrofan Jr. took a longer. Quinshawn didn't come till later. You can't just bank on we're going to fix our wide receiver, which I had said, Jordan Tyson. Let's go get Jalen Tyson's brother. That's someone we can get in the draft.
Yep.
That would be awesome. But when it comes to O-line, I mean, we got to make some moves in free agency here.
You would think, unless, maybe he's not counting re-signing some of their own. Maybe they bring back Posick, Batonio stays, then, okay.
Dwan Jones.
Yeah, he's going to come back.
What was the thing you had said about the 5 offensive linemen?
I think there's this thing out there that all 5 Browns offensive linemen are free agents. It's wrong. Dwan Jones is their starting left tackle. He got hurt last year. So they brought in Cam Robinson. Well, he's a free agent. Yeah, but he was never their starter. He was a backup. They went and acquired him. He was their starter down the stretch. That doesn't mean they're like, oh, yeah, he was supposed to be our guy next year, and now we don't know if we have him. No. Now, listen, they got like 4 guys they got to fill. Oh, that's plenty, but let's not say 5, all right? So that's just one thing they got to – it would get tweaked in the language out there. They got their work to do. They don't need 5 guys, though.
Do you have any projected free agent moves you would like to see?
Oh, man.
Any O-linemen you would like them to go get?
Off the top of my head, no. There was a speculative trade because we're getting into rumor mill stuff now, which is fine. That's fun. That's ESPN had one. They had one of their guys, one of their NFL folks, had like 11 moves around the NFL. He thought a bunch of teams should make, and he did have the Browns in on one of these with Jacksonville, and it was trading for. Now I can't even remember his name.
Little? That's who you're talking about, right?
Yeah, he's one of their tackles. He was a second-round pick a few years ago. That's the kind of speculative guy you go get because even though I just said they can put DeJuan at left, they can put DeJuan at right and go get this kid at left tackle. Oh, yeah, there is one I would like him to pursue. Walker Little. Yeah. I would love them to go after Linderbaum from Baltimore. Obviously, Monken knows him, right? It would hurt a division rival, and he's one of the best centers in the league. Now, Posick's fine, and he's coming off the injury, but he might be fine if they bring him back. But that's one dude I'd love him to go get. It's a premium starter. It's not a premium position, right? Center of the offensive line, not considered premium like tackles, but he's still a premium player at a center of the field position that would hurt a division rival. There's familiarity with the coach. I like that. So, yeah, you asked me for one, that's one go get.
Yeah, and as opposed to just banking on, this isn't a strong draft class. I know we said that last year too, but any year you can't just expect a draft to kind of fix all of your problems. Maybe there's like a bright, shiny quarterback you think is going to come in and fix your problems, but that ain't going to happen for the Browns this year. They're not picking high enough to go get our favorite Fernando. So
doesn't seem that way. Now, as we're sitting here, it is only February, right? So the way I've heard this draft talked about is that, in a lot of drafts, there's 32 first-round picks, but there's not truly 32 first-round guys. Teams don't put 32 first-round grades on players. They might end up with like 15 to 20. I've heard in this draft right now, people think there might be like 8 to 10. So when you talk about that, that's where it's a little bit of a devalued class. Now, that doesn't hurt the Browns at 6. They're still going to get one of those premium players. 24th, they're probably not. However, 24th, late first round, say the guy is the value of a second-round pick. That's prime territory for interior offensive linemen, right? Interior offensive linemen never go top. No, I don't want to say never, but rarely go top 10,
right.
Top 15. So you could get somebody who's a quality interior line prospect, guard, whatever. Maybe it's center. You don't go after Lindenbaum, but that's where I think they could be okay, well-serviced in this draft. But you're not right. You don't feel like there's going to be a star player there for him, at least a guy we know is going to be a star. The quarterback, we'll have to get into that as these shows unfold. And we will have plenty of shows to talk about because we're here every week, even though they're not playing football.
Every week. That does it for another episode of Off the Leash. For Mark Schwab, I'm Leah Doherty. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.